Hey, what is going on, guys? RvzStealth here, and in today's video, we're going to be breaking down the S tier champions for every single role for patch 9.10. And then just before we get started here, guys, two quick announcements. I am over on Icon now. I do have my own channel. You guys have probably seen like other streamers or creators creating their own channels on Icon. It's a pretty cool app. It allows me to create a lot of different unique challenges for you guys to compete in. So the first challenge here, I just kept it pretty simple. So most kills in 10 minutes, and the top 3 finishers will get $10 RP. So if you guys are interested, there is going to be a link down in the description below. And I have also started streaming on Twitch recently, so if you guys are interested in catching a stream sometime, then be sure to give me a follow over on my stream. There's also going to be a link down in the description below. Alright, so if we get into the video now, for the top lane for this patch, we got a couple newcomers. So Aatrox and Illaoi are making their way into the S tier, and notice there is no Riven for this patch. So originally I did think that Riven would be able to hold on to S tier in this patch with the change to her E, but it turns out that unless you're in the higher elos, Riven is just not performing as well right now in this patch, and I'd say that she's no longer an optimal S tier champion for 9.10. I think if you're a one trick, if you still really know the champion, you can make it work, but right now Aatrox and Illaoi are making their way into S tier in place of Riven for this patch. So for the Aatrox pick there, I think Riot ended up hotfixing him a little bit too early, because it turns out right now he's just performing extremely well in the top lane, and he's one of the best solo carry top laners for 9.10. Really good bruiser pick, has a very good skirmish, very good 1v1 potential, and snowballs extremely hard. So Aatrox is going to be a great pick to add to your champion pool for this patch. And then for Darius, Urgot, and Jax, you'd think that they drop down a little bit in this patch due to the Conquer nerfs, but the Conquer nerfs aren't really affecting them at all in this patch right now. Conquer users are still reigning supreme here in 9.10. And then for Illaoi right now in this patch, I'm not too sure as to how good she would be if she didn't have a bug in her kit right now. So Illaoi's very strong right now in this patch because she has a bug to where when she uses her E on the opponent, she uses her ultimate after that, she's gonna spawn 2 tentacles if she hits her vessel instead of 1, and this just allows her to have a very strong 1v1 and even like a 1v2 right now in this patch. If you do end up hitting the opponent with your ultimate and your vessel, you're gonna spawn 3 tentacles instead of 2, and just that extra tentacle adds for a lot more damage in a lot of different situations. Illaoi's actually, like, even without this bug, I'd still say Illaoi is a very strong pick in this patch right now because she does do well into a lot of meta bruisers, can do pretty well into Urgot, into Riven, Aatrox. The only pick she kind of struggles against a little bit is Jax right now. So I definitely think Illaoi, great pick here for 9.10, one of the most underrated top laners for this patch. Alright, so moving into the jungle now, 2 newcomers, and then the rest are the same from last patch. So Karthus and Amumu are moving up for this patch. That means that Kayn and Nunu are dropping down. It's always pretty difficult for me to make these jungle S tier champions because I still feel like Nunu and Kayn are very good in this patch, but due to Karthus and Amumu both getting indirectly buffed in this patch and over the past few patches, I do have to move them up in this patch, and that means that Kayn and Nunu are the odd ones out. That doesn't mean that Kayn and Nunu are weak in this patch right now. I still think they're very good junglers, but they are just slightly weaker. Like, Kayn does get indirectly a bit weaker in this patch due to the Conquer changes as well. And then for the Hecarim, the Ramus, the Vi, and the Master Yi, they are all staying S tier here for 9.10. For the Master Yi pick there, a lot of people, including myself, thought that he would drop down in this patch due to the Rageblade changes, but Rageblade is actually still performing very well on Yi in this patch right now. It's still his best performing build, so like Blood Razor, Rageblade, Wit's End still does very well on Master Yi. So originally I did think he would be dropping down, but he's still a great pick right now for 9.10. For Hecarim, still one of the strongest junglers in my opinion. Despite the Conquer nerfs, it's still the most optimal rune on him for this patch, and it still does very well. You're also going to want to run the Ignite on the Hecarim jungle right now, Ignite and Smite, and with the Ignite, with the Conquer, it just gives you very strong skirmish potential in the early game. So for the Ramus pick, if you're looking for a full tank jungler right now, I think Ramus is the best for solo queue. You could argue Nunu is the best right now as well, one of the best, but I just think Ramus does have better solo carry potential. His ganks in the early game are a little bit easier to pull off for sure. He does have the ability to engage a lot easier than Nunu does. I think Nunu is just like the little bit more difficult version of Ramus for solo queue. So if you're looking for a good tank who can still do a lot of damage, then Ramus is your pick for this patch. Now for Vi in this patch also, no longer really doing that great with the Aftershock. It got nerfed last patch, so a lot of Vi players have swapped over to the Electrocute, and it is now doing better on her. And then for Karthus and Amumu, both champions were borderline S tier in previous patches, and they are jumping up into S tier for this patch, so both benefit from those Runic Echoes buffs in this patch. For Amumu, I would say he's the #1 jungler in the lower elos for 9-10, so if you are just looking for one jungler to pick up and add to your champion pool for this patch, I would definitely recommend it be Amumu. You don't have to go Runic Echoes on him. I think either Runic Echoes or Cinder Hulk are great, depending on your playstyle, depending on what your team comp needs. If you need a tank, go Cinder Hulk, go for the tank build. If you don't really need a tank, if you got a tank top lane, got a tank support, then you can go for a more offensive build on Amumu and carry with that as well. And then for the Karthus pick, he's definitely a little bit more effective in the higher elos. He can still work in the lower elos, but I do think he is one of the strongest, if not the strongest jungler for high elo for this patch. He does benefit from the Scuttle changes last patch quite a bit, also does benefit from the Runic Echoes changes in this patch, and then he's just one of the strongest mid to late game junglers right now. He's even a pretty good early game jungler too. Like, a lot of people underestimate Karthus's early game. A lot of junglers like on the Korean server right now play Karthus, and if you take a look at the length of their games, they're ending games in like 20 minutes with Karthus. They're having strong early games. If you can hit his Q consistently, you can pump out a lot of damage with Karthus. If you can't hit your Q consistently though, then you pretty much do no damage at all. So he does take a little bit more skill, does take a little bit more time to get used to, but if you can play this jungler well, he's a great pick for this patch. And then for the mid lane here, we've got Ahri, Neeko, and Malzahar remaining S tier for another patch. So Ahri and Malzahar are just very consistent mid lane picks for 9.10. Neeko, extremely underrated mid lane pick, does very well into pretty much all of the most picked mid laners right now. She can do very well into a lot of mid lane assassin picks that are being played a lot, can do very well into the Zed pick. Neeko's ability to just dodge out on a lot of damage with her W in the laning phase, her ability to disengage off of dive champions that are trying to get onto her like the Zed or the Yasuo is really good. So I just think that Neeko, she's starting to see a little bit more play now in solo queue in this patch and over the past few patches, but I still think she is a very underrated mid lane pick. And then for Zed and Talon in this patch, they do get indirectly quite a bit stronger because of more AP junglers being played. So we're going to be seeing a lot more Karthus, a lot more Evelynn, a lot more Amumu in this patch now, and that just really helps out these champions, because if you pick Zed or Talon and your jungler also plays an AD jungler and your top laner is also an AD champion, and then you got your AD carry as well, it doesn't really bode too well for you for the mid to late game. So with more AP junglers being played right now, it's just really good for these champions, and I just think that they're very good solo queue picks right now as well. Talon does have some of the best snowball potential, if not the best snowball potential for any mid lane champion. His roaming potential down bot lane, super good. He can just snowball his bot lane out of control, so things are looking really good for these AD mid laners in 9.10. So moving on to AD carry now, we do have two newcomers in this patch, and that means that Vayne and Misfortune are both moving down. So Vayne did get indirectly and directly nerfed in this patch, which drops her to S tier down into A tier. Misfortune is kind of the odd AD carry out, so with Caitlyn and Xayah both getting a lot stronger in this patch, it does drop Misfortune down. So Caitlyn, she did get those W buffs in this patch, really does help out her early game there. Xayah got indirectly buffed in this patch due to the Essence Reaver buffs, and that item's been buffed like a couple times now over the past few patches, so it's just really nice changes for Xayah. We're also seeing more Recon now in this patch. Recon did get a bug fix in this patch here. He also got buffed, I'm pretty sure it was last patch, so because that duo is going to be played more down in the bot lane now, it's also really good for Xayah in this patch. And then if you are having a hard time against some of these dive champions being played right now, like the Zed, the Talon, the Vladimir, a lot of people are complaining about, Xayah is a great pick into those champions. So I'd say that Xayah's definitely a new pick in this patch that I would definitely recommend adding to your champion pool if you are an AD carry main. And then for Jinx, Draven, and for the Sivir there, I think Sivir overall the best AD carry now for this patch with the Essence Reaver changes, really good indirect buff there to Sivir. Jinx is also still a very consistent AD AD carry, and then Draven is your best early game snowball AD carry for this patch. Draven paired up with like Nautilus right now is just a disgusting lane. If you can like duo bot lane with Draven Nautilus or Draven Thresh right now, you can just solo carry or you can duo carry games super hard. So I think the meta down in the bot lane, pretty good for Draven right now, just seeing a ton of Nautilus. So if you can play with that combo and you can just play aggressive in the early game, then you're gonna have a ton of success on the AD carry for yet another patch. And then last but definitely not least, to round out the video for support, we got one newcomer for 9.10, everything else pretty much the same. So the one newcomer is Recon. Recon did get a really good bug fix in this patch to his E, to where he can now use his E even when his mana is lower than the ability cost. So this is just a really good bug fix for Recon in this patch. He also did get buffed last patch or the patch before, which really helped him out. And then with Xayah coming back into the meta now for 9.10, just lots of things are trending in Recon's favor right now. And if you are looking for a good aggressive support in this patch, then either Recon or Nautilus are going to be the two that you should definitely pick up. And then for Nautilus in this patch, because we're going to be seeing a little bit less of Vayne, a little bit less of Ezreal, and because we're going to be seeing more Caitlyn and more Xayah, just more of these AD carries that can provide Nautilus with more follow-up damage, more follow-up crowd control in this patch, it does suit Nautilus even better here for 9.10. For Nami, Lux, and Sona there, all three remain very good for yet another patch. So I'd say that Nami and Lux even get a bit stronger due to the AD carry changes, because they're both really good AD carries paired up with the Caitlyn. Nami Caitlyn lane is disgusting. Lux Caitlyn lane is also similar to the Morgana Caitlyn lane, to where if the Lux can land a bind, then Caitlyn follows that up with a free trap. Just tons of trap damage there in the laning phase. And then for the Sona pick, just a very consistent enchanter support. You can't really go wrong with picking Sona right now in this patch. Alright, so that is going to be all for the video, guys. Those are the S tier champions for every single role for another patch here for patch 9.10. So if you guys did enjoy this video, then be sure to drop a like and subscribe if you have yet to already. So thanks for watching, have an awesome day, and I will see you in my next video.